lights on the airways hum. Hear the tales of where they're from. Stories whispered, not in lies. Jobs they held through changing times.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Amplify Your Signal, the podcast for job seekers navigating career transitions with courage, clarity, and a whole lot of heart. I'm your host, Nicole Roberts, and today I'm joined by someone who lives and leads with both creativity and candor. Lindsay Patton is a social media and content strategist who has built a beautifully unconventional career by aligning work with her brain, not the other way around. She brings depth, humor, and honesty to the realities of freelance life, leadership, and living with chronic pain. I'm thrilled to have her here. Welcome, Lindsay. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Nicole. What a great welcome. As Nicole said, I have a lot of career history. I have been a journalist. I've been a professor. I've been a podcast host myself. That's how we got connected. Currently, the majority of my work is involved in digital marketing, but I love using my brain to, kind of push what you can do and where you can go creatively.
I love that. So, as a freelancer, what's your favorite way to start your workday since you're the one calling the shots?
So it's a little unconventional. I love the little animals that we have in our backyard. And so I start every day by feeding them and I like having my breakfast. I'll like put some seed out and then have my breakfast and then go back and there'll be just this beautiful array of little sparrows and squirrels. And we have this squirrel that's very friendly named Pumpkin. And she just makes my day so special. I'm not like necessarily a rise and grind person. I
Yeah.
like my mornings to be a little softer and a little more furry and feather friend filled.
So, you're basically Snow White, is what you're
I
telling
think
me.
so.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I mean, it was about time that we had a Disney princess on this show. So, I think it's perfect.
It's really easy. You just need to feed animals consistently. Anyone can do it.
I'm a huge animal lover, and I have 3 cats. I can't even say a cat and 2 kittens anymore because now they're older, but they don't rely on me to be awake to eat. So I have a timed dispenser for their food, and it goes off at 6 a.m. and 5 p.m. So they've never been trained to think they need to wake me up in order
Oh,
to get fed, and
that is luxury.
it's a game changer for anybody that used to get woken up. I mean, you see these videos where they're like cats are standing on their chest to wake them up in the morning. Mine don't do that. They do not associate me with, although they hear my voice because it says time to eat and it's my voice.
Any
But yeah,
things that you can buy.
I mean, they have a automatic water fountain. They have an automatic feeder and the litter box is even automated. Like we are fully automated in this house. The
Yes.
most low maintenance pet ownership known to me.
If you can automate pets for them, it's all over.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And people always say cats are like the most low maintenance pet ever. I'm like, hold my beer because I'll make them even lower maintenance than they already are. Yeah. Yeah.
That's inspirational.
It's pretty amazing. So, yeah. And then it also helps with travel or things like that. I don't have to worry
Yeah.
about rushing home after being out, during the day to make sure that I get them and they're not, starving to death. So, it's the little things so that you can
Oh
just
my
kind of
gosh.
make sure they stay on a little schedule and yeah, it works that way.
Kept.
You shared before how embracing your self-employment has helped you align your work with how your brain operates. And I found that fascinating. What did your discovery teach you about your own strengths and how you operate best?
So I'm trying a lot of things on my own, trial and error, some therapy littered in there. I learned that I get bored easy.
Mm.
And so I need to juggle things. And, while I have not been diagnosed with anything, I have very ADHD tendencies where I like to bounce from one thing to another. And I have really loved the fractional element of freelancing. And so I have clients across the board in different industries doing different things. I talked about hosting a podcast, that was for one client. For another client, I manage newsletters, I manage social media. For others, I can just help improve their writing through coaching and everything I've learned through my journalism career. So I'm always doing something different as opposed to being in an office or like one business where I'm doing, even though you might have different tasks within that business, it's still the same brand and the same voice.
Oh.
And so as a digital marketer, I like working with different voices, strategizing how do I get this brand's goals communicated in their voice in something that seems legitimate and organic. So yeah, like I said, I love the diversity of what I do and the fact that I can work with different people in different areas. I think my biggest frustration with full-time work was there were a lot of part-time opportunities that came across that I
Mm.
wanted to do so bad. I
Mhm.
just didn't have the time. And now I can say yes to all those opportunities. And I think that is so fun for me.
Yeah, I love that. So for you, what is you talked to me a little bit about chronic pain and chronic illness in kind of navigating your work. What is the reality of navigating work as a self-employed contractor and living with chronic illness? Like, what do people misunderstand about what that requires?
Yeah, I think so. I have migraine. I have chronic migraine, which is different from episodic. Chronic means you get multiple a month. And I think what a lot of people misunderstand about migraine is that it's just head pain. People think it's just a headache and you can take Tylenol and it's okay. It is a full blown neurological attack on your entire body. And so I don't just get head pain, but I get nausea and very, very violent nausea. I feel like nausea is just like a very, very calm word for what happens. It's not like that. Um, and I think that's what a lot of people don't understand is that it's such a violent experience that even looking at screens is difficult. Um, I think one thing that's important to note is that my does not speak for everyone. Migraine is a very, very complicated and it's a whole spectrum of experiences for the people who are diagnosed with it. So some people may not even have the head pain that are associated with migraine attacks. They could have an aura, in color, stars in front. I don't have aura, so I struggle explaining it,
Yeah.
but there are some migraine attacks without pain, and there are some migraine attacks with pain in different areas as well. So it's very, very complicated. And what I've experienced in the workplace is, generalizations. So I think understanding that there's complications happening, that is the first step of with working with someone with a chronic illness or living with chronic pain. And knowing that all we can do is ride the wave, right? We get knocked down, we get back up, and to trust that we have worked out the coping mechanisms that we need to dive into, our jobs and responsibility.
Yeah. What helps you? Like, if you get a migraine attack, what helps you to get through that?
Just laying down waiting for it to
Laying
pass.
down?
Yeah, it's different for everybody.
Mhm.
There are some people where taking certain meds it'll help them. I'm someone who gets Botox injections because it helps the severity. Because I get Botox, every 3 months, I'm not having as many violent attacks. And, not only the number of attacks are going down, but the severity of them. So that is something that I do that's helped a lot. And It really is a trial and error. There's been so many things that just have not worked, but what I found, something that has worked so well is, like I talked about before, being able to manage my own workload and my own time. And so that has been, and working with people like you, because I remember, I had such a horrible attack and I'm like, I can't do this. I can't. And you were so wonderful. So having people who understand it totally out of our control is so, so encouraging and just exactly what we need.
Yeah. I think it is, it's all about communication and working with each other. And I mean, the number one thing is take care of yourself, right? So, yeah, I'm glad that you have kind of built this frame and this structure around your work that you can take care of yourself when you need to. I think that's incredibly important.
Yeah, and as a result of taking care of myself, my work is better. Like I can schedule out of office hours, for example. I feel like the office life didn't really work for me because that's not how chronic illness works. Chronic illness will jump in at whatever. It doesn't care if you have a 9 to 5. And so I thought I was someone that I would never work on the weekends. It's my time. Now I work so much on the weekends and I'm not mad about it because it really helps me prepare for the week. I can go into Monday not having to worry about if I get an attack, I'll be so far behind. I've really, really learned how to manage my work in a way that clients are affected only when I email or call and say, hey, it's a rough day. You probably won't be able to get a hold of me.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I'm glad that you have that support and that you can do that.
Yeah, me too.
Another thing that you talked about that I thought was really a wonderful mindset is the way that you have kind of reframed healthy endings. So, how do you create endings that are healthy, that are human, that keep the doors open? Like, what mindset has helped you to stay grounded?
With freelancing, it has changed a lot of my perspective because it is such a project based structure. A lot of beginnings and endings. Not everything lasts forever. I do have a couple clients that have been with me since I started 6 years ago, which is, something I'm so proud to say. But the reality is, contractors, people try us out, and that's okay. And that's what really has helped that different projects, cycling through projects that helps my brain. And so I needed to reframe, we think firing is such a bad, horrible thing. And I have my own burnt bridges, trust me. But I had to learn, from those experiences on, okay, like if I'm going into a relationship, there's a potential that it's going to end. Because
Yeah.
in the past, I went into these relationships thinking like, oh, this is so great. We're best friends forever. But that's not life. So by recognizing, hey, this could end, but let's make the best while we're here, it has made saying goodbye easier. I share the story of a writing coach client of mine, Shelly, and I only worked with her for 3 months, but she has stuck with me for a long, long time because of how much she improved in those 3 months. And one thing that I'm not going to do is I'm not going to waste someone's time. If you have reached the point where you are using everything that I have given you tool wise, I'm not going to continue to take your money. I'm going to set you free to use exactly what I gave you to use, what the relationship was meant to be. And so her going off into the world as a better writer, it was an ending that was so happy for me. And so that was kind of where I got into this new way of thinking of, oh, we celebrated when we parted. It wasn't, this negative emotion, it was this happy emotion. Shelley, you look at her articles coming in and compare them to the ones that she wrote after those 3 months, and they're not even the same. And that is, that is nothing to say a tearful goodbye at all.
I love that, and that I do this with my coaching as well, is I don't want to be indispensable. I don't want to be somebody that you're gonna depend on forever. Because 1, that's not scalable, right? Like, I can't
Yeah.
have you like, "Oh, we couldn't have done this without you." Like, I want you to do it without me. I want to be able to empower you and enable you, and so I love that that is the way that you approach your coaching as well, is that like the end goal is that you don't need me anymore
Yeah.
and that you feel that you're doing it on your own. I love that. I
So,
love that.
yeah, it's just kind of taking those bad experiences. I've definitely been knocked down. I've put emotions too much into my work and when I shouldn't have, and now I'm learning to move forward in a way that's more realistic.
Yeah. And I think that part of it is the balance that you've created, right? But I mean, there are too many people that will put so much of their identity in their work. And I think that's when if the work ends or if the work relationship ends, then it feels like it's such a part of you. And I know because I very much used to have my identity in my work, and I still have my heart in my work, but I also am a whole complete person outside of it, even though I mean, it's literally behind me and to the right of me, right? I mean, like, I still live, eat,
Yeah.
breathe, whatever, but not to the extent that I used to. And my greatest successes are with my children, with like things outside of work. And it used to be that if somebody asked me, like, what's going great, the first thing that I'd talk about was my job or some kind of
Yeah.
achievement. And so I think that it's an incredibly freeing and healthy mindset to celebrate it, but that's not your identity.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, you just struck a nerve. And I think a lot of people can feel this way because, especially people who go into their careers studying something. I can relate to this with journalism. I
Mhm.
studied journalism, in school for 4 years, and then right out of school, got a job as a full-time journalist and did that for 7 years until I realized it wasn't sustainable. And
Mm.
it was an identity crisis. There was this journalistic purity that I thought existed, that I just would be this has been washed up journalist if I sought out more opportunities. And it took a while to realize that's not true, and look at all you've done because you've branched out.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Another thing that we talked about before that I thought was such a fascinating phrase is you talked about worker focused leadership. And I just love that. What does that look like in practice, and how has it shaped the way that you show up in leadership roles?
Yeah, I need to brand that.
You
But
do need to.
I started in leadership very, very early. At 24 years old, I was tasked with creating an internship program, which is a mighty, mighty task for someone who is, barely into their 20s. And so, because I was in that, just out of that college mindset and not too far removed, I really understood what workers wanted as entry level employees. And that kind of, it relates to interns because interns, in a way, are entry level employees. So, there's a lot of, well, what would I want in this? And so I knew that I would want a leader who wasn't above me. I don't know if I said that as articulate as I could, but I'm I am all about helping out. And even though my responsibilities may be a little bit higher level, or, have a heavier weight, I don't want to say more important because all
Mhm,
responsibilities are important. It doesn't mean that I can't help someone whose plate is overflowing.
mhm.
And so that is definitely how I led when I worked with interns during that program. And it has turned me into a leader who wants to know if the workers are okay.
Uh,
And that doesn't always like make me a fan favorite in boardrooms that prioritize profit. But I truly believe that when you encourage people and when make sure that they're fulfilled, they're going to give you the best work possible.
yes.
And I've managed too many people in my life to have it proved otherwise.
Yeah. I mean, when you take care of your people, they will take care of you. They'll take care of your business. They take care of your customers. Like
Mhm.
every time. You can't out appreciate people. And I know what you mean about if the culture does not believe that, then that can be an unpopular opinion. But man, when the culture also supports that and agrees with that and knows that at the heart of it, that is how you're successful. I mean, it's so funny to me when an organization doesn't get that, but yet they do see that if you're taking care of your customers, that you win on service and then you don't have to compete in the other areas. It is literally the same thing with your employees and with your people. Like, win on service. You won't have high turnover, right? You won't have the issues with absenteeism because people will feel connected. Like, win
Yeah.
on service with your customers and with your people, and you will be successful every time.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
I think about the people I've connected with, that were former interns of mine or I managed as writers, and they're still in my life. And that is one thing about my career that's been so, so special is because if you invest in someone that in the workplace is quote unquote below you,
Right.
you're going to see them succeed and
Mhm.
they're going to surpass you and they're going to think of you when there's an opportunity because I love when people I work with are more successful than I am. Am just like, get it. Oh my goodness. I am
Yeah.
so happy I got to be part of that journey.
Yes. I love that. I have a former manager that he was so new to leadership when we got to work together, and he recently got a promotion, and he reached out to me and told me, first of all, and I was like, "Of course you did. Like, you would have been my top pick, right?" And I just reached out today and I was like, "Hey, thinking about you. Like, how's your new job going?" And he was like, "Well, it's coming and I'm learning and I'm basically doing two jobs right now as I figure it all out and figure out the transition." But I agree with you. It's such a wonderful experience to see somebody really embrace that kind of next level in their career and what's next, and get to see that growth and that excitement in them. Yeah, I agree with you
Yeah.
100%
I
on
had
that.
a former intern who was just an absolute delight, and he ended up working at Nickelodeon Studios for SpongeBob's social media, and I was just so happy for him.
That is so cool.
I'm like, "How what, you're still talking to little old me?" It was just yeah, like, those moments they're so fun, and they're so fulfilling, and it's so I don't have kids, so I get to say I'm proud of you. That's who
I love
the
that.
interns that I work with. They get my little mom vibes then.
I love that. I love that. So you're actively exploring what's next and what's going on out there. It is a jungle out there, and I know it and I see it, because I mean, I lost my job 8 months ago, 9 months ago now. So I know it's a jungle out there and it takes a village. What are you learning about the job search experience, especially from your unique vantage point as both a creative and a contractor?
I'm learning to be me more. I'm so creative with my clients, but when it comes to promoting myself, I have the stage fright everyone has. And so it's reminding myself that I'm clever, I am creative, and that stop being bland. Why are you being bland? Be funny, because that's who you are. You're fun and you're creative and you're colorful, even though I'm in all black, but anyway. Wow. And so it's like, be you, Lindsay.
Yeah.
So
Be you. Everybody else is taken.
and that's
Yeah.
why I'm here on this podcast. I'm getting involved in more networking opportunities. I'm going to different cities and seeing, because I can do my job anywhere, which is so fun about it. So
Yeah.
let's see what's going on in other cities. And yeah, I feel like, you said it's a jungle out there. And of
Yes.
course, there's this feeling of dread, but compared to where I was a year ago when I was in a very similar position and lost a couple contracts due to budgeting, it's much different now. I have much more energy. I feel more creative and I feel more active, whereas last year I was more passive. So there's a hopefulness that's going on that, I'm just going to ride that hopefulness because it's hard. It's hard to have hope sometimes. And so when you do, yeah, you gotta lean into it.
Yeah. Yeah. You absolutely do. Yeah. And if you don't have somebody that you're regularly doing like virtual coffee or something with, like I'll be your accountability buddy
I
as you
love
go
it.
through this. Yeah, I absolutely will. I have such a better day if I start with, so this morning I started with my in person at my local chamber. We do a Wednesday coffee thing. And so I started with that. But if I don't have that, I try to start my day with a virtual coffee and just talking to somebody and, just having that energy exchange. I am happy to do that. So,
That's so
yeah,
cool. Yeah, so you're really intentional with how you start your day.
have to be because I'm an introvert. And so if I'm not careful, I can go an entire day without speaking to a soul, reaching out to anybody. Like I will get way introspective and inside. And it's not always the best thing for me because sometimes I need the energy and the exchange and all of
Yeah,
that. And I'm still doing it, sometimes it's in person, but sometimes it's, from home and it's virtually. But I need that to kind of get going and get creativity going and just things like that. Plus, when you're working by yourself, it can be so isolating that for me, it's really helpful to kind of start my day with just talking to somebody else. I'm like, what's going on with you? And
yeah.
I've always been a go giver and I've always been somebody who wanted to help others. I mean, that's why I started this podcast. And so for me, if I start my day meeting somebody new and learning about them, then I get ideas about how I can help them. And then I can go and approach my work with just a different attitude and perspective, I think.
I
Yeah.
like it. It's kind of
Yeah.
like acting, kind of like you embody a character or traits, that you normally wouldn't in that
Yeah.
way. I love that's such a good strategy.
So, as we share your story, what do you want prospective employers, collaborators, and the broader community to understand about you?
Yeah, so obviously we talked about I'm a creative person, but I also have found that what makes me unique is my journalism training. And I am so proud of my journalism degree and experience because it has helped me springboard into really, really amazing opportunities with social media, newsletters, and even coaching people and becoming better writers. I manage editorial teams freelance too. So it has been really awesome to see how those skills have translated. For example, social media is something that I took on fairly quickly because it's just telling a story in a
Hmm.
smaller way. And, I was writing so many like little blurbs in the magazine I was working for. I'm like, oh, this is just a blurb. The
Hmm.
caption is just a magazine blurb. Or, like a subject for a newsletter. Oh, that's just an article headline. We're using the same strategies, the same amount of characters to voice. And so being able to pinpoint where I can take, these things I've learned and apply them new places, that's where I find I kind of am a little bit more competitive because
Mm.
the open rates they get a little higher because a journalist is behind the subject line and the layout. I mean, newsletters are basically mini magazines, and I spent 7 years managing a magazine. Yeah, I'm so proud. I guess it's just been really, really cool to be able to stretch something that, journalism, there's a stigma with it. Journalists aren't getting paid well. There's a lot of conglomerates buying up publications. And so to be able to take something that its industry has experienced so much strife and
Mhm.
say, I am using all of this. Um, I'm very, yeah, it's something I deeply, deeply take.
Well, Lindsay, thank you for bringing your full self to this conversation. You have shared so many thoughtful takeaways about work and wellness and making that space for creativity. And I know that our listeners are going to walk away feeling more seen and more equipped. If you're listening and thinking, I want to connect with Lindsay, where can people best find you?
Lindsay Patton on LinkedIn, blackstarcoms.com. My business is called Black Star Communications because I'm a huge David Bowie fan, and Black Star
Mm.
was the last album he released before he passed. And so that's a little tribute to him. And so Black Star Comms, COMMS.com is where you can get a little bit more information about me and set up a free meeting. I'm all about good fit. And so I don't like to push. I'm not a pushy person. So I like to have meetings that determine, hey, is this a good fit? Can I do what you're looking for? If not, here's someone I know who can do it better. So I like, I'm again, good fit. It just makes the work so much more enjoyable.
Yeah, that is wonderful. And what an abundance mindset that you're obviously operating out of versus a scarcity mindset because you're not trying to make yourself fit to their needs.
Yeah.
You're listening for fit and seeing if you're the best person to work with them or if you should refer them to somebody else. I love that.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I have my own personality, my own quirks, and so certain environments work better than others. And I know that works for everyone else too. All our brains are different, and I am someone who's figured out how my brain works and how to best apply it to the professional.
I love that. Well, thank you for joining me today and sharing your story.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so good to connect again. I love full circle moments, and that's why I love interviewing, whether it's journalism or podcasting, because you get to know so many people, and I'm just so glad I got to know you.
Because we connected in like 2022, right?
Right.
Like July of 2022. I was on a podcast that you were doing. So yeah,
Yeah.
I love that.
We're just switching roles.
I know. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you. And thank you to our listener for joining us as we amplify voices, elevate stories, and support one another one episode at a time.
Pages blank, but hearts alive. Through their journeys, they still strive. Tales of passion, grit, and grace. Every journey leaves its trace.